One of the most annoying cliches about this game that we love is also the most true, and that is that the NFL stands for not for long. In this video, I'm going to break down a couple Broncos who are fan favorites, who we love, who insiders are saying are done in Denver. And I'm going to argue that while it seems like a massive step back, that we are taking a step back so that we can take 2 steps forward. If you're new to this channel, my name is Ben. I break down all things Denver sports. I love your comments. I love your likes. I try to read all of them and respond to as many of them as I can. Helps me out if you subscribe and dive into the conversation. So let's break down the news about Broncos who are on their way out and why, while it seems like a bitter pill to swallow, it is ultimately a good thing for this team. So saw this article and just thought it was absolutely fascinating. Massive shout out to Jason Fitzgerald for writing this. And that is just the amount of turnover on NFL franchises that if you miss a year of Broncos football and you're like, whoa, I'm just turning on for the first time, I don't know half of these dudes' names. Like, who are these guys? That is because it is very possible that half of the team is brand new and they weren't there the last time you watched them. So looking at the turnover rate, the average amount of players that a team brings back after 1 year over the past decade-ish of looking at this is 56%. So you are bringing back only 56% of your players into the next year, and over 2 years, that's only over 35%. And that's why it was always fascinating to see, like, it was McManus was the last player that we had on our team who even remembers the Super Bowl, even though that just feels like yesterday. You know, we had Vaughn around for a while. We had these players around for a while, and then all of a sudden it's like Brandon McManus is the last player we had on our team who remembers making the playoffs, and that is crazy. I saw this chart underneath, which is even more crazy, and that brings up the max retention and minimum retention of a team. And the very best teams in football bring back 70%, meaning each year the best teams in football lose 30% of their dudes, and the worst teams, when you're doing massive overhauls, are only bringing back 34% of their dudes, meaning 60+% of their roster is completely turning over. So we would be naive to think that the Denver Broncos, having missed the playoffs 8 years in a row, are just going to run it back next year as it is. While we have these players that we have this incredible loyalty to, that you say something bad about Justin Simmons, you say something bad about Josey Jewell, we're gonna roll. Like, I'll fight somebody. Look at these arms. It would not be pretty for you. But the fact of the matter is we haven't made the playoffs with Justin Simmons. We haven't made the playoffs with Josey Jewell. It's definitely not their fault. But those are the players in this video I'm going to break down. The insiders are saying because of the money that they're due, because of our cap situation, and because of the market for them, they are probably on to bigger and better things. So the first one, Josey Jewell. Again, I loved very little more this season than watching Josey Jewell and Alex Singleton. Their relationship, like their friendship, they just seemed like Friday Night Lights dudes. They seemed like Riggins and Texas Forever. Like, they liked each other. They had an amazing chemistry. But the fact of the matter is we just probably cannot afford bringing back Simmons and Josey Jewell. Josey Jewell is a free agent, which means we could do something where we give him a massive signing bonus and spread that out over a bunch of years. But there's also a bunch of talent backing up Josey Jewell and a bunch of signs that have happened over the past couple of years that would lead me to believe that we have been planning for Josey Jewell to leave after this offseason because we can't afford to pay everyone. I've joked on this channel before how we have a bottomless bag of cash, and our owner has that, and he can spend that by creating all these new coaching positions. But one thing even the richest owner in sports can't get around is the salary cap that we have. That's why we have such amazing parity in the NFL, and we have teams go from the Houston Texans have the 2nd overall draft pick to making the playoffs, and if they'd stayed healthy, they could have maybe even made a deeper run in the playoffs. So looking here at Josey Jewell, are the backup that we have for him. First off, we saw at the end of the year press conference with George Payton, he said Drew Sanders is a starter in this league. Just saying that, Drew Sanders and Josey Jewell and Alex Singleton all can't literally be starters. We know Alex Singleton led the team in tackles. He led Philadelphia in tackles. He's not going anywhere. And so to me, him saying that is a sign that Josey Jewell was on his way out. On top of that, the first move that we truly made of this offseason was re-signing Jonas Griffith. Now, he has not played since, I think, 2021. He's had 2 straight years of injuries, but they were fluky injuries and not related. It was not a Greg Dulcich type situation. They were very fluky type injuries. He didn't start playing football until his senior year of high school. The ceiling on Griffith is crazy, crazy high. And so I think the fact of the matter is we have both of those guys lined up, Griffith and Sanders, and I think we will not be bringing back Josey Jewell. This article really does a great job of pointing out where they think Josey Jewell will end up, and that is with the Philadelphia Eagles, going back and playing with Vic Fangio, who just absolutely raved about him. And then on top of that, do you remember Matt Russell, who was Elway's right-hand man when we first acquired Josey Jewell? He is now with the Philadelphia Eagles. So I think that is a very likely destination for Josey Jewell next year, which would be interesting because Singleton was with the Eagles and now is with the Broncos, and now his right-hand man, Josey Jewell, with the Broncos. Is he going to flop over and play with the Philadelphia Eagles? We look here, and one of the other interesting things is that the Denver Broncos may be a top landing spot for free agent Patrick Queen. And so if you're going to dump a ton of money into that linebacker position, Josey Jewell's been amazing, and I've loved him. But getting a really young stud, a former first-rounder, this team just doesn't have that many first-rounders on it. We have Pat Surtain. We have McGlinchey, who we didn't even draft. Help me out in the comments. Who are our other first-round picks on this current team? So being able to bring in a Queen would be an awesome thing. So again, looking at this article, which cites a couple of Sports Illustrated sources, could the Baltimore Ravens free agent Patrick Queen come jump over the Denver Broncos? That would be amazing. And even if not, I think we have the dudes in place. We would miss him a lot, but I think we have Griffith. We have Drew Sanders, who we picked last year and we're really, really high on. When I talked to people, I was just on a call with a salesperson from Arkansas who's like, oh, you guys just wait till you see Drew Sanders. He's different. He's nasty. And we saw flashes of that this year. I think of that Patriots game, the fake punt that he was able to snuff out. He was a little underwhelming in camp, but everyone raves about his talent and his ceiling, and you saw that in the pre-draft type. The next one that might be even more of a bitter pill to swallow, and that is Justin Simmons. Probably other than Surtain, he's my second favorite player on this Broncos team. He has been through this whole thing. He came right after we'd been in Super Bowls, right after we'd had all those playoff runs, and I'm sure he thought, man, I'm going to one of the best franchises in football, and he's never had a winning season, and that's got to be tough for him. And so what you see here in a Denver Post source cited is that some action is likely on Justin Simmons. So we are over the cap, irregardless of what happens with Russell Wilson. We are over the cap, and we need to do some stuff to get under the cap, and then maybe we'll have free agent money to go look for a Danielle Hunter, to go look for a Josh Allen from the Jaguars. And so the two options that we have with Simmons are, we could ask him to restructure his contract, restructuring the contract of a safety who's 32. Well, that is a position in my mind that does string out a long time. You see a lot of corners, as they aren't fast enough to keep up in man, switch to safety. We just saw that with that K-Jax, right? The guy who kept getting suspended. He was a corner for Houston for a while, and then he retired and ended his career as a safety. So you could see a safety playing into his 36, 37, 38, but at 32 to re-sign a massive deal, that would be a big ask and a big hope that he stays healthy. We saw some injuries with him this year. We also saw that when he was out, it was bad news. Like the 70-pointer that the Dolphins dropped on us was when Justin Simmons was out. The massive comeback that the Washington Commanders had on us when we had the best first half of football from Russell Wilson, and I'm like, let's go. We're making the playoffs. Well, then Commanders came back and beat us, and that was, again, without Justin Simmons. So I do think he is a tremendous leader. So the next option, you could cut him, you could restructure him, or you could trade him. So if we were to trade him or to cut him, we could save $14.5 million. So there are proposals out there that Justin Simmons could go to a couple different places. And I think the place I would like to see him go the most would be to go to the Detroit Lions. We know Dan Campbell loves Sean Payton. They are part of the same coaching tree. There's like a mutual admiration between those two. And you even see that Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator for Detroit, actually coached with Sean Payton when he was with the Saints for a while. So you do see a natural fit there in that trade. And you hear people saying that Justin Simmons could warrant a third-round draft pick. Now, I think if contracts were off the table, you could see a team like Detroit giving up a first-round draft pick because he is that level of talent. But he is a high-priced safety, and he only has 1 year left on his deal. So that means he's high-priced now and is just going to warrant even more pay in the future. So that is a very interesting thing. So then looking... There are a couple. So here's another source saying that the Denver Broncos should trade Justin Simmons. And then this was a interesting article here, which listed all of the trade destinations where Simmons could go. And so I think as it would behoove the Broncos to look at these different places and truly try to get the biggest haul as far as picks that they can. We've heard George Payton talk about how he wants like a quiver full of picks, and currently we only have 6 picks. We pick 12th in the first round. We pick 12 overall. Then we don't pick again till later in the third round. So that's a pretty massive gap in there. If the Denver Broncos could get a late second, a high third, that would be amazing. And I see a team like Chicago who has the cap to get him and then sign him to a longer deal. The Packers, I would love to see him go to one of these NFC teams. The Falcons. Could somehow the Denver Broncos move up in the first round? We know Falcons are ahead of us. We know Chicago Bears have the 9th overall pick in the draft. If the quarterback Sean Payton really wants is still on the board at 9, could we send Justin Simmons and then just give them the 12th pick to go up to 9? You've heard teams giving up way more to just move up a few spots. Looking here, Atlanta Falcons also pick above us. I would not want to see him end up with the Chargers. That would be brutal for us to play against him twice a year. I want to see him go and be successful. But either way, I think it is very likely, and I think it is in the Denver Broncos' best interest to take these 2 steps forward. We have fill-ins. We can get some real trade value, and we can build forward because the Denver Broncos need to break this 8-year losing streak of missing the playoffs, and we're going to do it together. Denver Broncos country, let's giddy up. Missed it.